Thank you so much, Raquel. I was really excited to interview you. I have been following you for a while. And then I know Jordan loves you. I work very closely with Jordan. She's one of my great friends. And I saw the post that she was very excited to go to, I think it was like drinks with you after work
Yeah,
one
we
day.
had
She's
dinner
like,
and drinks. We finally met. Like I had been here for like a year in San Diego, and I was like, all right, this is just ridiculous at this point.
love it. I love how online connections turn into real life connections. And I just feel like that's how all of these get started. So,
Yes.
yeah, I loved everything that you do online. I was just like going back over your LinkedIn, and I mean, you have so many things going. And so I feel like I have so many questions about like how you got started and why branding. So we'll get into all of that. But I would love it if you just kind of tell people who you are and how you got started. That would be awesome.
Yeah, so Raquel Borras. How I got started. So it was really like truly organic and just kind of I got to just be who I was. And the managers that I was working for at the time, like in a different mortgage company, like they saw the strengths that I had, and they saw that one of the strengths was like just being able to kind of put myself out there online. And because of that, they're like, hey, can you help us do that too with our company? And that's just kind of how it started. And I just realized that it was like a really cool way to still connect with people without having to do it in person, because I do love people and I love networking events and conferences and going and meeting people face to face, but I realized that like being able to do it online, you were also able to like build relationships, and then you get to build relationships even more because you get to be connected with people from all around the world in a way that you couldn't before. And I thought what was really cool too is that I was just being me, and I'm still just being me. Like part of that was just like the phenomenon of like, hey, people actually want to hear what I have to say and what I'm doing. It made me realize like a lot of people want to hear what everybody has to say and their stories and their experiences. So it just kind of like led me to wanting to help others to do that, like especially loan officers, because that's the industry that I'm in. So I was like, well, if loan officers can share their story and their experiences, then their potential client is going to feel like they can trust them, they like them and they want to work with them. And so that's just like how it all kind of, I guess, like started and evolved. And then with Rock the Boat, it was during COVID that right before COVID, actually. So January of 2020, I decided, I was like, I'm going to go out on my own. I have enough people asking me to help them with their personal brand and with, companies coming to me being like, we want you to do what you're doing for your company, but for us. So I was like, well, then I'm going to consult. So I go out January 2020. I actually was interviewed by Marsha Davies for the Empower Moments, and that was like super cool, but that was literally like a week or two before everything shut down. And I was like, wah, wah, wah. It was good and bad because everybody was jumping on social media, LinkedIn. And so I'm like, okay, well, this is a great opportunity to kind of like help people and add value. But at the same time, like I wasn't making any money because so many people were worried about their own finances and whether they were going to have a job or not or pay their bills. So it was kind of a weird time for me in those 2 years. But that's when I was like, all right, I love kids. I want to have my own show. I want to host something myself, but I don't want to do what everybody else is doing. I'm a mom of a 22 and 19-year-old now. At the time, they were, obviously several years younger. And I was like, they're struggling because of social media. They're now struggling because now they're isolated from their friends, their social lives. I'm like, I want to hear what they have to say. I want to know what our kids are thinking and how they're feeling, because they're our future and they're the ones that really are going to dictate how this world ends up. And so I was like, that's what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start a YouTube channel talking to kids. And I have 70 episodes or 70 conversations, if you will, and with kids of all ages, all around the world. And I've learned so much from them. And I realize how important it is to empower them and to have them feel seen and heard and all of those things. And then that's why I was like, this is what I'm meant to be doing. And so that's essentially my passion project. I'm very blessed that I'm at a company, New American Funding allows me to kind of pursue my passion project while doing the social media marketing. Like I am very grateful for that, because that's the thing too, right? With putting yourself out there and branding, there's a lot of people that are scared to do that because of what their company's going to think, what their employer's going to think. You know, are they going to kind of not want them around because of what they're saying? I don't know. Like, it is kind of a slippery slope sometimes for some people, and I get that. But
Yeah.
I'm in such a good place to where I get to be me. I get to share about Rock the Boat, what I'm doing, my live event, all of it, and still be able to help our loan officers and help the company and help the industry as well. So I am very, very grateful.
That's so awesome. There's so many things that you said that have sparked a million questions, I feel like. But one thing that I want to go back to, and it kind of ties into why we're even doing this, I almost said podcast. I guess it's kind of a podcast. My video series that I'm doing is what you felt that you really wanted to kind of spotlight kids and interview kids and give them the space to really kind of shine that light and hear what they have to say about things. And I feel like that's really where I want to get to with the impact at MBA. Impact has been around for about 8 years or so, but recently we split it out from commercial and the residential side. So I'm taking over everything residential about the Young Professionals Group. And I really want to almost move it in a direction where I'm creating a space for the young professionals in the industry to be able to have that spotlight and feel like they can come to a place and have their voices be heard. Because a lot of times young professionals and companies aren't in a position where they're getting their voices heard or where they have a seat at the table. And so I would love to be able to provide a platform to give them the skills and the tools and resources to be able to pull up their own seat at the table and figure out what that looks like at their company. And so I love that that's a passion project of yours. It's definitely something that resonated with me. So I really appreciate that you're doing that for kids in general. I think that's amazing.
Thank you. And I love what you're doing because, yeah, I think, we live in a business world where if you're a newbie, then you don't really have much to say because you don't have the experience. But I feel like it's the opposite now, where the new blood that comes in, like, they're the ones that have like a different perspective and fresh eyes, and they're not like necessarily jaded yet when it comes to things. And so I feel like now more than ever, we should be asking them like what they think or how they would maybe change things. Like, I truly believe like this whole experience thing where so many, and I'm seeing this, these younger generations are trying to get into the workforce, but they're getting rejected because they don't have the experience. It's like, well, you got to be able to start somewhere. I mean, when I came into the mortgage industry, I had zero experience. Like, I was like, what am I doing here? Like, I came from a builder doing customer service. So for me, like, I experienced having someone give me kind of a voice, if you will. Like, they trusted me enough to be like, hey, what's your opinion on this? And look what happened because I had this opportunity. So if you being able to do that for others, like, who's to say how will change things? Like, even having like Allie Carty, right? Like, I love that people are giving her a platform and a voice to share what she's, learning from Gen Z and the homeowners. I think that's fantastic. Like, we should be doing more of that.
I know, fresh perspectives. I was just talking to one of my members of the MBA, who's a lot more in the line of like the tech space. And she said that I've been in the industry for 30 years. And since I've been in the industry, the whole entire process flow of like the mortgage origination process has not changed a single bit. Regulations have changed, the world has changed, everything around it has changed, but nothing has changed within the space. And she's like, we need all of these young professionals to come in and challenge it and figure out questions. Why do we do it this way? And why are we doing it that way? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Why can't we do it this way? And just really like challenge us, because I feel like that's the next generation, and whose new perspectives are key.
Yeah, but I think it takes a lot of the leaders to kind of let their egos go and kind of let things go and allow them to do that, because that's what happens too, right? Is like, well, I've been here 30 years. I know what it's like. And to be honest, like, not to like, be a little bit whatever with my dad, but my dad does that with me. And I'm 48 years old, and he'll be like, well, I've been around the block for, I'm like, I get it, dad, but it's like, I'm also of a different generation, and I have a different perspective. And also, I have to learn how to fail and to be like, get knocked down and get back up. And I have to learn these things on my own. And like, I get it that you want to like share your wisdom. And so I'm learning to do that with my own kids too, of like, all right, back off, Raquel. Like, you don't necessarily know everything, and you might not know better. And I think that's what the issue can be as well with a lot of these, people that have been in this space for so many years and are leaders, that they're kind of like, they just don't want to have to give up that control, or they're kind of like, what do you mean we have to change something, or is that not working out? It's like, don't take it personally. Like, we're trying to do better by our clients.
Exactly. Oh my goodness. So pivoting a little bit, I would love to ask you, what is your like best piece of advice that you would give to I guess twofold of a question, to people
Okay.
that are like fresh into the industry, brand new into the industry, maybe right out of college? What would be the best piece of advice you'd give them on kind of building, whether it's building their brand first or trying to go through the ranks first? Like, what would you give them as kind of like a first skill set coming into the industry?
Um, I think in this, probably I would have probably said something different years ago. But for me, I really feel like it's learning to be able to listen and collaborate and really kind of be like a team player, because that's another thing too, is that a lot of people, because they are so disconnected and because of social media and everything, like, we forgot what it's like to really be able to like collaborate and not have like that competitive kind of, I mean, the competitive nature is good, but I feel like when you're coming into something new, like, be willing to ask the questions, be willing to kind of admit like, hey, I'm learning, can, ask for help. Like, I feel the vulnerability piece of it is really important now, where before I didn't see that. And now I'm finding that the more I'm like willing to be like, hey, I don't know this and I need to learn. Um, and also just kind of, I guess, trusting yourself too. That was another thing too, is that I think you can get really intimidated, especially in this
Mhm.
industry when you come into it. And I know I was really intimidated, but I had to really trust that I had value to bring, that there, once again, that I had certain strengths. And so it's kind of learning to kind of in that inner voice and be like, what am I really good at? And be like vocal about it, be like, hey, I might not be really good at this, but I'm really good at this. And share that with your team or your manager. And yeah, I feel like more of that communication piece.
I really think that communication piece is one of the most important things that people can learn to master in really any aspect of life. But um, especially when it comes to like talking to your manager and really asking, how am I doing? What can I work on? Give me something that I could have done better on this project, and really like, don't take offense to that too. I feel like there's constructive criticism is really hard thing to take, but it's like one of the best things um, that you can get from a manager, and a good manager who's
Yeah.
really trying to pull you up and make you do better. And so yeah, I love that. So
Mm-hmm.
same question, but what about to people that are maybe like still young professionals? So I'm 31 in the industry, but I've been here for about 10 years or
Oh,
so
wow. So you
in the
came
industry.
young.
So I am, what would be kind of like my age group? So still in the young professionals community, going through, but really trying to almost like take it to the next level of that career. I think what would be your best piece
I
of
mean, I
advice?
think also being really like forthcoming with your manager or just your company, but like, hey, I really would like to move up. Because I think that's another thing too, is I think people assume that they're going to be, moving up the ladder or going to get a promotion. But I feel like a lot of times, unless you say it and that's what you're wanting to do, most likely they'll just kind of pass you over and they'll be like, well, I didn't know. So I think like, there's nothing wrong with vocalizing that and be like, hey, what can I do to get to this level, because this is like what I'm dreaming of doing one day at this company. Yeah, I think once again, before it was like a taboo to like ask certain things. And I think now it's like changed so much where I think managers understand that they have to be able to kind of have a different type of relationship with their employees, or their colleagues. I know, like with my boss, I mean, I love that I can go to him about anything in the, and be okay with it. And he knows that I'm coming to him not to like complain or not to, none of those things. It's like, it's more of like, hey, this is what I want, or this is what I see, and he's like the same way. And so because of that, I absolutely love working here in this environment because of the managers and the people that I work with, but it's because we're so willing to share with one another, like our wants and needs, if you will, within the workplace. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the communication again, it's still I
Yeah.
feel like the most important aspect. And I guess it changes over the course of your career, like the type of communication that you have and the you get more intentional with how
Yeah.
you're choosing to communicate or choosing to ask for certain things, which is very I've always thought is very interesting because
Yeah. I
the
mean,
more
I've changed too. Yeah. Like I'm 48, and just even recently, the way I communicate once again with my boss and everybody, like it's so different now, but it's so empowering because I am able to vocalize things where before I'd be scared to. And now I'm not.
yeah,
And I see that it actually is really helpful and it makes things better. Like if you're really honest about things. I mean, I've been very honest with him, and like a perfect example. It's slow right now. We all know like the mortgage industry, like a lot of these loan officers aren't really doing much, but at the same time, this is when they should be doubling down on their marketing and their social media. And a lot of them still don't. And so it's having that conversation with my boss of like, hey, I need help here to get our loan officers like a little bit more kind of like excited or willing to do stuff like that. Right. And like before, I would have been kind of scared to have that conversation because then I think because I would have felt like I'm not doing my job right. That if I can't get these loan officers to do that, then I must be doing something wrong. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, and so that piece of it, that growth, and then also being able to vocalize, hey, I need help. As a manager, I need you to also kind of like share how important it is that they should be doing this. And he's like, no, I get it. Right. So it's uncomfortable conversations for some people, but now for me, it's not as uncomfortable as it would have been, because I've learned to really be able to like stand in my voice and also like trust that once again, like
yeah.
I think I might know what I'm talking about sometimes. Not all the time.
I love that. I know having the confidence to trust yourself is a hard skill to master. And I think we're always working on it. But yeah, yeah, definitely having and like trusting, like you said, that you're not the one that's not doing your job correctly. You're
Right.
doing all you can, but it's just like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. You can put
Yeah.
everything out there, but you're not going to make the loan officers go on social.
Yeah. And
Or
that's hard for a lot of us marketing social media people in this industry. It's not just here, it's everywhere. Everyone I've spoken to, it's a tough one. And I do empathize with these loan officers because that's not what they like working. That's not what they were hired to do. I mean, they want to get people in homes. And then suddenly they have to be marketers and social media gurus and influencers. And I get that that's really tough. So like, that's why I don't take it personally. If someone's like, I don't want to have anything to do with what you're doing.
yeah,
I'm like, I get it. But at the same time, like, it's not going anywhere. Like, this is here to stay and it's evolving pretty quickly. So either jump on it or you don't either, like that. It's also having those conversations too of like, this is your
yeah.
business, not mine. So
I'm here to give you some tools and resources, but
yeah, but I mean, but those are like legit things that are happening and legit conversations that there are happening behind the scenes. And some people might not want to talk about it and share it, but I'm super honest about it. We're like, yeah, it's not easy sometimes trying to get people to get on social media.
yeah. Well, and it's a good kind of segue into my next question, which is the difference between like personal and professional branding. I know a lot of people, and I'm kind of riding this fine line too between what goes on like my LinkedIn versus my Instagram, or And I think I'm much more, and it's funny because I'm much more outgoing and put myself out there a lot more when it's on my LinkedIn. And I think it's because like the community that I've created within not only just the industry, but just like my platform within Impact and within
Yeah.
MBA, I feel so much more rock solid than I do with like my own personal sometimes on
I
LinkedIn because
do
I feel like
too,
I'm trying
girlfriend. I know
to,
exactly what you're talking about. Exactly. Same thing for
it's
me.
so it's so funny. So yeah, do you like is there anything that you can like any tips or anything you can provide on either just going for it or figuring out how to like the best way to continue to brand yourself on either
Um,
professionally or personally?
yeah, it's interesting because yesterday I had a conversation with someone that wanted to try to like hire me as a personal brand strategist, and they weren't in the industry, and they were so set on a certain like there was going to be a formula, and I was like, I don't think there is one, and if there is, I don't abide by it. For me, I literally like create content and see what resonates with people and what doesn't. Like I feel like that's how you naturally kind of progress it as a brand. Like it's just your personality, who you are, putting yourself out there, and then you slowly get an idea of like, yeah, what people are connecting with emotionally. And that's, for me, it's taken years, like for the longest time, I didn't really showcase my goofiness and my humor and the comedy element of it because I didn't think people were going to take me seriously. And then for whatever reason, I started doing more of it. And when people were like, oh my gosh, like they just kind of love the fact that I just made them laugh and made them smile, then I was like, okay, they want to see more of that. So that's why you see a lot of my content on LinkedIn, a lot of this, even the copyright, I try to make it humorous. Like I try to be funny and I try to be kind of a smart ass at times because that's just who I am, first of all, and that's what people like to see me do. So it's like the same thing for a lot of people is that I think you just have to just start doing something. And if whatever that is, maybe it like some people don't want to actually get in front of a video, their camera. That's fine. You don't have there's ways to be on video without having to like talk to your phone. You
Yeah.
could do articles if you're a really good blogger. There's so many different things you can do. I mean, you see on Instagram, you could do like a picture and just do an audio. I've done that. There's one of our loan officers who doesn't feel really comfortable like just pulling out the camera and talking to it. So I record him, and a lot of times he'll do like a voiceover, and it's just me recording him like writing something on a piece of paper because he feels more comfortable doing that. So it's just kind of
Yeah.
figuring out what you're comfortable with, and yeah, and just kind of seeing what people connect with, because I think you'd be surprised sometimes with what people resonate with and what they don't. Like I myself have learned a lot about human psychology doing all of this. Like sometimes I'm a little kind of shocked. I'm like, really, people? But
Well, the humor is what we need in the world right now. So I think that's
yeah,
right.
and I think it's just we overthink things so much, and it's like just like we got to try to stop overthinking it because really everybody's overthinking what they're doing. So they're not really worried about what you're doing, they're worried about what they're doing. Like I always have to remind myself of that when I start overthinking. I'm like, Raquel, stop being so narcissistic that you think everyone's thinking about you because they're all being their own narcissist and thinking about themselves, right? Like, so it's just kind of funny how sometimes I have to put myself in check too and be like, girl, get over yourself.
That's a really good reminder, I feel like, for a lot of people because every time I go to either post something, I need to like trust that I'm myself and I need to trust that that's enough. And I think that that's a really hard thing to do. But we're all evolving. We're all
Yeah. But you had mentioned something earlier, which, and it has to do with trust, and it has to do with the fact that you said that you feel more comfortable on LinkedIn and being yourself, right? Like I feel so safe on LinkedIn because I have spent years building a community of people that I trust and I respect. And I feel like they trust and respect me in return. So that when I share certain things, like I share them knowing that they've got my back, like, because I have built a community, because I do make it a point to meet behind the scenes to when being in San Diego, there's so many people here that are for conferences. As soon as I find out someone's here for a conference, I'm like, hey, let's meet up for a drink or a coffee, or they know they're coming out and they'll warn me, hey, I'm coming out for a conference. Can we meet up? Absolutely. So I really cultivated like this really strong community of people. So I feel so comfortable being who I am because I have built a community of people that I trust. And it sounds like you have managed to do that. And that's why you love what you do on LinkedIn. And I want that for everybody. Like, I want everybody to understand that, like, it's not about so much the content and what you're putting out there. It's like the people that are
Yeah.
essentially consuming your content and then are getting to know you, and then you're getting to know them. Like, it's really the relationships. Like, I tell people all the time, like, I truly am on LinkedIn for the relationship aspect of it. I'm not trying to sell anything. I don't have a product to sell. I'm not, like, I'm helping our loan officers. Like me, I'm not trying to like build a brand. I already have it. So I have to think about that a lot. Like, why am I on here? I'm on here because I truly love people and want to connect with people. So it's also figuring out like really the reason why you're doing what you're doing. And for me, I've owned that. Like, where before I think I was scared to tell people that, like, I just want to meet people. Like, I'm not trying to like make money. I'm not,
Yeah.
like, I'm trying to help our
Yeah.
youth and I'm trying to do it through LinkedIn. And I'm okay with that now. Like,
I know I'm definitely a people person. That's why I love conferences and I love going to, like, part of my job is meeting people at their office and doing member visits on site. And I love it. And I love those relationships. And that's how I've built up the community that I have. And I feel like it's only skyrocketed because of LinkedIn and because of the connections and because we're so spread out all over the country. And that's where we can keep in touch with each other. I mean, it's essentially it's what Facebook is for my family because I'm not close to my family. So it's like my little family reunion on social media. Like that's what I feel like LinkedIn is. And we get to promote things that we love and promote articles that we love and videos that I hope people love. And so I think that's why it's much more comfortable on LinkedIn
yeah.
than it is anywhere.
No, and I have to admit, the mortgage industry, like, I never thought I would end up here, and then I still don't. I'm still in it. Like, this is shocking to me, but I have found that even when I left, their support was still there. Like, yeah, once again, Marsha had me on her show when she knew I had left the industry, but she still wanted to help promote what I was doing. And I had many industry people still have me on their podcast, like Brian Covey and Phil Treadwell. Like, it was crazy to me. Alec Hansen. I was like, wow, these people still want to hear what I have to say, and I'm not even in the industry anymore. And so when I came back, it was like I was embraced so easily. And so there's something to be said about this particular industry, and that it's like, so that's why anybody in the industry that's like scared to do this or get on LinkedIn, or I'm telling you, like, we have a great like community of people that are really supporting. Like, I've noticed that more and more, and I'm sure you have too, that it doesn't matter what company if you're a competitor or whatever, it's like we're still engaging on their content, or like, oh my God, that was a great article, or that was a great video that you said, or like, oh my gosh, like, want to hear more. Like, I love that. Like, I don't know if it's just me, but that's how I feel. And there's something to be said
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why
No,
it's
I
like so hard for people to leave, or they always come
yeah.
back. Right now I understand.
Exactly. I know. I always say, well, people always say how you like fall into the industry. My claim to fame was that my mom was a realtor for my entire childhood.
Oh,
And so when
okay.
a job as a processor at a credit union, I'm like, I don't know anything about mortgages, but I know the lingo on that side, so I can learn
Yeah.
it really quick. And so that's how I fell into the industry. I just really needed a job. And 10 years later, I never left. And I don't ever see myself leaving because I love the MBA. I love this industry
Yeah, like, there's
and
something about it
so
that,
much.
that's the thing, is then we have to talk about more about that, because I think outside looking in, it's like, ugh, not glamorous, it's not sexy at all. People are like, oh my gosh, it's like awful right now, all of this stuff. I'm like, yeah, but the people, like,
Yeah, support
you
each
guys,
other.
yeah, yeah. And I'm sure, and that's why
Yeah.
I like said major FOMO when you guys were all in Philly, because I was like, oh,
Oh, it was a lot of fun. It was
it
definitely
was.
a really good time. Is there anything that you have any questions about on my end?
I just absolutely love what you're doing. If there's any way, I know that you had, asked some of us industry folks to help out with like a mentoring program and like doing this video series. So anything, like, I am all about it. So keep doing it, because I think, you, Jordan, Allie, there's so many voices in the industry right now that need to be heard. And I love that you guys are like stepping it up. And I love that you started this series, because yeah, like, we need to hear more about what you guys have to say. And so for me, I just think it's like the coolest thing ever. Like, I don't see it as like, oh no, they're gonna like, overstep whatever. No, if anything, like, please, like, I love it. So keep doing what you're
Oh,
doing.
well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to talk with me today. It was so great to finally meet over video. I know we've chatted a couple times, but it was great to meet you.
It was nice to meet you too. And hopefully I'll get to hug you one day, because I am a hugger.
I know. Hope I get to see you at either a conference or next time I'm in San Diego visiting
Yeah.
Jordan, maybe for
Yeah,
a wedding or something.
that's right. There's a wedding in the works.
I love it. Oh, thank you so much, Raquel. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.